Hello and welcome to Queendom TV. Today I'm going to be talking about Niki and Gabi, which is kind of a really random topic. I feel like some people are going to think for me to bring up. If you don't know, Niki and Gabi are these twin sisters on YouTube. I believe they've been on YouTube for a very long time from what I have seen. Like, I didn't really know about them like earlier in their career. I kind of came to know about them, I think it was this year. I came across their channel. I think I came across one of their like birthday swap videos, and I just thought it was really interesting, just the concept of having these like two different twins, like and how different their personalities were, and I found it really fascinating. And so I literally ended up like watching so many of their videos, like old ones, new ones. Like, I basically kept myself completely up to date because I was so fascinated just to see like how they turned out this way, like as in where did they come from. And you know, I was interested even by the fact that they weren't identical, or at least from what I could see. And so I spent a lot of time like catching up on a lot of their videos, and so now I feel like I have a pretty good idea about them and who the kind of people they are. And I think we're around the same age, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure, but so I kind of wanted to make this video because I'm genuinely concerned about them at this point. Like, I feel like they are two people who are very I think they're like, I don't believe in good people, as I've said before. I don't think anybody's good, really. I think we're all good to some people and bad to others. And I really believe Jesus was the only ever good human being, or is the only ever good human being. But anyway, I do think that they are both like pure at heart. I feel both of them are not people who I think, oh, they've got some kind of like malicious intents behind them. Like, I've kind of spent a lot of time like just watching things to do with them, things to do with others, and obviously there are many YouTubers out there who I think have some genuine malicious intents, and just not very nice people at the core of them. But I really believe Niki and Gabi are really pure at the heart of both of them, and I'm concerned for them for many different reasons. I feel like number one, I'm concerned for them in terms of their own mental health. I think, as it has kind of shown, which has been really beautiful actually, how they've kind of realized they don't have to be so different anymore. Because if you don't know them, you should check them out. But basically, Gabi, she's the more like girly girl, cottage couture, like she likes, you know, to wear like expensive stuff, and she's just like the kind of like high flyer kind of vibe. And then Niki is more of the like cool, like knows what's like in trends all the time, like very like wears all this very cool fashion, and you know, is very like kind of, I want to say emotional, but I don't want that to come across in a bad way. Like, she's emotional, but in like a very I don't know, almost like in a kind of powerful sense in a way, to some degree. It's just very like, you know, they're just very opposite, right? And she's very expressive as well. I would say Niki's quite expressive, so I think that's why she loves singing. She talks a lot about how much her singing career is so important to her, and I really believe she's loves to express herself in that way. And so over the years, it seems like you know, they both obviously were interested in doing the channel. Niki kind of assumed a lot more of the like managerial role, in terms of like making sure the videos are getting done and kind of making sure that this is something that's moving forward. Gabi seems more of the, it's a nice thing that I do genuinely care about, but there's a lot more other things in my life that bring me joy that I also want to have enough time to spend on as well. And so I think this is kind of like, you know, that is an interesting area, I think, to start like addressing the stuff that goes on between Niki and Gabi, because I feel like to some extent I almost wish like I could speak to both of them in a room, because I feel like they're on the same page, but they just don't see eye to eye as well. And I feel like a lot of it is because, I guess, for both of them, they probably felt in the past like they had to assume some particular personality in order to feel different, because obviously being born identical twins, which they were born identical twins and they are still identical twins, being born identical, well, I don't know why I'm saying they still are, of course they are if they were born it, but I'm just saying, like, because they don't look identical, which I'm going to get onto and not in a little bit. But I feel like from both of them, they felt the need to look different and to feel different and to feel like they were you know, their own person. And I think that's why them kind of being in their own vibe or their own little pocket of what they've decided is themselves has worked well for them. And I think that's something that's worked really well for their audience, which I think now is making it hard for them, where they're probably starting to realize, like, for example, Niki had dyed her hair like a natural color for the first time, and I can't remember how long, you know. And Gabi has not been made such a big of an effort to be doing all of her fancy stuff. She even said she's not necessarily wanting to push forth the fancy vlogs anymore. So you can see that both of them are they're kind of like coming like this. And I don't mean in terms of turning into the same person, but I mean in kind of realizing that as women, outside of being a twin, they can both have both like characteristics and both interests that either of them have, and then that not necessarily mean that now people just see them as the same person, which I don't know what their upbringing was like. I'll be so interested to know if they struggled and how they were treated, like, you know, when they were younger. And I can imagine for twins just being identical anyway, that it must be really hard to feel like you have your own, you're seen as your own person, because even just in being a twin, twins tend to just always be associated with each other, even if you're not associating like the things that they have in common with each other, if that makes sense. So maybe that's something that affected them as well. So I do think that plays a massive role in their relationships today, and I think it's something that automatically forces them to assume the opposite thing to what the other person is doing. And that's why I feel like a lot of people think Gabi, or have said that they feel like Gabi's not that interested in like all the YouTube stuff as much as Niki is. And but I don't think that's the case. I just think that, you know, and they've said also about Niki as well, that maybe she's more concerned about the YouTube, the channel wouldn't be running if it wasn't for her, and, you know, all this stuff. And I think in some ways both of those things are true, but I feel like, again, it's not necessarily the truth. I feel like it's more that, you know, them wanting to have something for themselves and them having a role that is theirs, if that makes sense. So if the role for Gabi is that she's the one who likes to have a social life, then it's something that provides like a separate identity for her, in the same way that it's Niki being the one who's always like more focused on when are we filming, how are we going to film the videos and stuff like that. Although I feel like as a whole, you can tell that for both of them, they kind of need both. Because if you look at Gabi now is more concerned about if the channel isn't working. She's the one who's more concerned about like, well, this is a form of income for me. If we stop doing this channel together, I'm going to lose a job. Whereas for Niki, she's now in a place where it's like, well, I want to be more social now. I want to have a social life. And you can tell even just from, you know, what she says and what she goes through, that she could benefit, especially her mental health. She would benefit so much more of having a fuller social life, and not being so focused on work. So again, it's kind of like the things that they had initially kind of settled in as their thing isn't really their thing, or hasn't really been maybe feeding them as much as it came across. And again, it's almost like, seems like it's the pressure of being a twin and trying to like be different, that has kind of created that, if that makes sense. So yeah, so I kind of feel like now it's good that they're in this stage, but and the reason why I'm concerned for them though, however, and again, going back to the face, the identicalness, obviously Gabi's had some work done on her face, which at first I didn't really notice, but then I kind of noticed like a few things about, at first I didn't notice they were not identical. That's why I said I had to state it in the beginning, because I didn't know they were identical to begin with, because I just found out about them, like I said, like this year. But at first I didn't really notice, but I noticed certain things about her face. You know, like how when people have had work done, like certain areas of their face, they just don't move the same anymore, like they're, you know, whatever. So I kind of noticed those things about her. But then because it's so common now as well, sometimes I just think that's how people are, and I forget that people actually do get work done. So anyway, and so she has had some work done, obviously a lot, and she had that work done from very early. And again, it was another interesting thing to me, because I know she was saying about how, you know, their mum had all these beautiful features, and they were born with like the features of their dad, you know. And so I'm thinking as well, looking at Niki in some way probably was a way of looking at herself constantly and seeing that as well. And so again, with just the way that they kind of chose their personalities, and Niki being the like cool one, the one that feels like she's not so much without Gabi, and then Gabi being like the glamorous one with a lot more self-confidence and everything, it kind of added to that again, because then you got Gabi doing something to do with her appearance to make her feel like she looks better, and also therefore without saying anything, without needing to say anything, basically saying that she kind of, that Niki could have improvements. And I'm not saying that's what she's saying, because she's not saying that. I don't believe that she feels that way either, because I know that she said it's something that is just for herself. But there's no way that Nikki's not going to take that way somehow, because ultimately they have the same face, if that makes sense. So it's like, how can you say that I'm beautiful the way I am, and you've changed your face when we have the same face, there's obviously that's going to cause some, it's going to add to what already exists between them, or was existing between them more before, of the whole, you know, Niki kind of feeling like the uglier one. And I know she even spoke about, you know, she was nervous when they started their separate channels, like, was she even going to get as many subscribers? And even now Gabi does have more subscribers, and unfortunately I don't even think that Gabi has more subscribers for the reasons that Niki is thinking. Like the root, she's kind of right, but the root of it is not like what Niki thinks it is. Like the root of it is kind of negative, because I feel like the reason why Gabi does have more followers, and even when, you know, Gabi, I think she voiced how she's struggling to change her content, is because a lot of people are interested for some reason in life on social media. Especially, we're interested in seeing people that that are doing better than us, that kind of are living standards of things that are unrealistic for the life that we're living. It's almost like we just like to live in a fantasy land, really. And so I think a lot of people go towards Gabi, not necessarily because Gabi made the channel on her own, but because her life is something that's more like something that people like kind of aspire to live with, you know, with the glitz and the glam and the cottage and the lovely house. And, you know, the way she does her videos, they're very lovely to watch, very beautiful, you know. And then you have Niki, and she just has a completely different way of doing it. She's a lot more, I would say, probably relatable to most people. But then a lot of the time, people don't necessarily want to be related to, for some reason, for some toxic reason. I don't know about us in society at the moment, but we rather, like, a lot of people, it's like how on Instagram people will like, comment, share a picture that's been so overdone. Like the posing was just mad. They just spent so much time trying to look a certain way. They spent so much time with the lighting, makeup, hair, and then filters, and then even for filters on filters and all these things before you see an image. And then that's what people want to see. And when people just post like a normal picture of themselves, it's like, no one, even if that person could look beautiful, even if the natural lighting is beautiful, it's just not the same anymore. And I kind of think that you can see how that's unhelpful. If you look between Niki and Gabi, it's a great example of just how toxic that is. And again, it's working against them, because in reality, you know, I'm sure there's times when Niki does want to dress nice or be fancy. There's some fancy things that she likes, but again, now she's challenged, like, is she going off brand, like, by doing that? Or is she now going into territory that maybe she feels like she doesn't have the self-confidence to do that? Because there's a lot more self-confidence being the cool one, because then kind of anything goes when you're the cool one. That's why even with her fashion and everything, she can just throw these things together, which, by the way, I think she throws together things so cool. I love her fashion. Both of them made me think a lot more about my fashion as a whole. So I really do like her fashion. I'm not saying anything about that. I do really like her. And if anything, I'd probably choose her fashion more myself, because I feel like that kind of more goes with my vibe. But then again, I would also have my Gabi days, and I think that's why it's and again, even in their in the comments of their, I don't know where this video is going right now, to be honest with you, but I just really knew that I wanted to address Niki and Gabi, why I'm concerned about them, and I'm kind of just going with the flow. But yeah, even in the comments, you'll see that, like, for me, I find it really odd that people always choose one side or the other. Like, to me, that's so weird, because, like, to me, I at first, I guess I kind of tried to do the same thing, because that's what people were doing. I tried to kind of look at it like, oh yeah, but I just couldn't, because I found things about both of them that I appreciated. Like, I appreciated the fact that, you know, Niki was emotional, she was expressive. I like the way that she dresses. I like the way that she carries herself. I like the way that she you know, she wears her heart on her sleeve. And then I like about Gabi is I like that she's fancy. I like that she has a lot of confidence. I like the fact that she's serious about having a family and being married, and you know, running her own businesses and doing things that make her happy. So I kind of appreciated it about both of them, you know. And so for me, I just find it really odd. But again, I feel like the reason why people are going up against choosing one or the other, and this is kind of why I'm concerned, is because we just have, for some reason, society has this need to, like, I don't know, put people against each other, see one thing as better than another. Like, why can't we just accept both of them? And again, I feel like it kind of adds to them. Even in their most recent series, the one they did, where did they go? I think they were at the Jersey Shore. And for me, that series was it was very, very telling, in my opinion. And I'll come back to that series at my next point. But what I wanted to say about that, like, even just the way that people felt about the way people compared Niki and Gabi's actions, to me was kind of just like, why, again, people always tend to side with one or the other. But my perspective on the whole show personally was that, first of all, it was nice that they did a trip together, and I think it's nice that they do these things together. And I have positives and negatives to say about both of them. In terms of Niki, the positives I have to say about Niki is that she's the one who made the effort to actually do something like that. It's a lot of work, like getting a group of people together, a group of friends, especially when you're adults, to try and do something together for an extended period of time. It's hard even to just get it done for a day. So good on her for doing that and having the idea and persevering and doing that. I think good on her for, you know, even just prioritizing their birthday and making a big deal about being with her sister as well. I think that's a great sign for their relationship as friends. Obviously they're sisters, they love each other as they've always said, but I think even as friends, it's just a fantastic example of her genuinely wanting to love and be in a relationship with her sister, and you know, spend time with her. I know they spend time together anyway, because they always talk about like how Niki will be like, oh yeah, I'm invited to Gabi's tonight and stuff. But it's just nice that they were doing something for their birthday that was about them together with their friends. And so I think that's another positive. I think it's really positive that Niki was the one with her boyfriend, that they were filming everything, and that well, Nate was filming everything. But I think it's positive that, you know, that that's something that he seems to be happy with, as long as he's genuinely happy with doing that. And it's something that they can share together. So I thought that was a positive. And the positives for Gabi, I would say, are that, first of all, that she was there, you know, in support with her sister. Sorry, I was just remembering the bed situation, but I'm going to come back to that. I think it's very positive that she was so concerned for making sure her sister was enjoying herself as well. Again, just some really, really good signs between both of them that they wanted to have that relationship. I like that Gabi as well. I like the thing is that I like about Gabi, to be fair, with a lot of these things, it's just the way she goes about doing things, because she's not always like the most vocal about what she's saying, what she feels, but I feel like sometimes her actions and her body language, it tells you a lot. And just the fact that, you know, she was there kind of looking out for her sister, and just very aware of how she was feeling, to me really stood out. But I would say the negatives for me with Niki, I didn't think it was great that she was kind of holding over people's heads the fact that she was the one who had the idea to even book the trip in the first place, and that she booked it. I kind of feel like if you do something, you need to do it from the kindness of your heart, and if people are ungrateful or unhappy, then you kind of just have to suck it up and know for next time. I did find that a little bit distasteful on her part, especially when they were deciding on the beds, and you know, she was like, well, I feel like I should get it because I booked it. And it's kind of like, I get that people use those kinds of logic in life, but I feel like those are toxic logics that people use. I don't think it should be about the fact that she paid for it. I think they as sisters should have genuinely come up with a fair agreement, which again, positive to Gabi, she tried to make it into a positive. She said, you know what, can I just have it for a night with me and Colin so I can film content, which again is something that people overlook, that Gabi is genuinely concerned about as well herself. And so she was like, oh no, can I just have that for a night, which was a pretty fair deal, because they were staying more than 2 nights, so Niki would have got the majority anyway. I do think Niki could have been a lot more understanding. I think going into it, Niki, again, being the one booking it, knowing the situation, should have been totally more preventative, in the sense of, prior to getting there, maybe say to Gabi, like, when we get there, I've got pictures, like maybe have pictures of the place, talk about it with Gabi beforehand, and between the two of them just like make that agreement. I think that's the best way to go about those kinds of things. I do think the whole Niki and Rachel situation is, well, Niki, Gabi and Rachel situation, I think that's a very, very messy one, and I don't really trust their friend Rachel. And it's not that I feel like she's a bad person, and not that I think she's a bad friend, but I do think that, knowing how sensitive that Niki is, I just don't believe that somebody who genuinely loves her would do the things that she has done with her, especially, you know, in the more, you know, adult theme related stuff, and just also being like that emotional person for her. I kind of feel like if you know somebody that you're in your life who's that sensitive, you have to be extremely careful about how you deal with them, because whatever you do could affect them so much more than you might realize. And I think with Niki and the Niki and Colin and Rachel situation, I feel like Gabi the Gabi and Colin and Rachel situation, I feel like Gabi is a little bit more emotionally prepared for something like that. Although either way, I just don't think it's a good situation. I think they should keep Rachel as a friend, and just a friend, as far as all of them are concerned. I think what Niki should really do with Nate is try and maybe develop that relationship more, and maybe if she did lean on him more in an emotional sense, that relationship might even thrive even more, and she might be sure, well, obviously they said they want to get married, but I feel like you know, they're kind of some things in their relationship I feel like they could work on. Not to say it's a bad relationship. I think they have a great relationship, a lovely relationship, and I think they're so well suited for each other. But I do think that rather than trying to find something from somebody else, I feel like you should work on what you have in your relationship. And I think you find that a lot more with Gabi and Colin, because even from what I saw, that she gifted Colin the nose job, which again, different people have different thoughts on different things, but ultimately you can tell from the way that Gabi and Colin are that they are very much you can tell there's a lot more of an emotional reliance on each other than you can find in Niki and Nate. And my worry is for Nate that eventually, if Niki's getting her emotional support somewhere else, then where's Nate getting his emotional support? And if he now gets emotional support in a woman, I just know that that's just not going to be a great thing for Niki at all, and I would hate for anything negative to happen as a result of that. So I do find that really toxic, although people try and be like, oh, it's 2021 now and like let's move forward. But I really think sometimes there's some real good reasons why traditions, I don't want to say even traditions, but like, you know, tradition is the way that it is because it actually protects people themselves. Like, this is my belief even with the Bible, you know, like it protects you from a lot of the things that people don't like. It protects you from getting hurt, you know. Being with one man and one wife, then you've got one person, you know, that you're dedicated to, that loves you, and that, you know, who you don't have to worry about who they've been with, why they're with that other person, because all these things are normal. It's normal to wonder why somebody wants to be with somebody else when they're with you, and that's why I think things are better that way. But they also are harder because it means you challenge yourself to be the best version of yourself, and you can't just go around and like kind of pick and choose, oh, I'm gonna let this bit of me be with this person and this bit of me be with that person. You're kind of more challenged to actually like be the best version of yourself regardless, which I do think is quite difficult to do as well. So I think that's kind of why maybe people choose that option. But like I said, it kind of makes more sense to me to just say, you know what, let's just work on what we have between us. And I think that's why even with Gabi and Colin, you can sense that when things are going wrong with Gabi, I feel like she does really have Colin there, and I feel like Colin also seems to feel like he really has Gabi as well. And so again, I kind of feel Gabi is almost safer in a sense in terms of the people around her than I feel Niki is, because I feel like Niki is a lot more open to potentially being done wrongly by others. And that was kind of shown with the Rachel situation, because obviously Rachel isn't in a relationship. Like, whatever relationship or friendship that Rachel could be in was always going to be something that was going to threaten how Niki was going to feel. And I was kind of annoyed about that as well, because I was kind of like Rachel deserves to have her own relationships, and I mean, you know, and do what she's doing without it having to threaten Niki. But again, because Niki is relying on her in a higher sense than I feel like she should be, that's why they were kind of having that issue. So that's where I kind of feel like, you know, the negatives for me were with Niki, and then with Gabi at the same time. I feel like Gabi, to be fair, I didn't really see as many negatives from Gabi as I think other people did. For me, I feel like, you know, Gabi always has her best interest at heart, and I think something that Niki and Gabi could do as sisters to actually help them progress forward better would be to actually talk about what was your intention by what you did, as opposed to just getting upset about what the other person did. Because I feel like Gabi's intentions are usually good. Like, she usually wants to make sure her sister's enjoying herself. She usually wants to make sure that she's happy and look after her, and she's like the first one to get involved when anything is going down with her sister, like even in prank videos and stuff. But I think sometimes because her intention, because she's not as emotionally visible as Niki is, then Gabi a lot of the time ends up looking like the villain, where I feel like she isn't. And so I kind of feel like, you know, that's something that maybe they could work on together as sisters, more than anything. And then also just think, I would say with Gabi, just being a bit more aware of Niki as well would actually help, in the sense that, you know, Niki is more sensitive. And I think because for Gabi, I can understand this, because I kind of can understand this behavior myself, where it's like when you are the person who is genuinely stronger or better at dealing with things, sometimes you cannot be as soft-handed with the person that maybe needs a bit more sensitivity from you. But then again, at the same time, when Gabi wanted to talk about the baby situation when they did the I think it was the Snapchat show, then Niki was also being quite heavy-handed with Gabi, and I don't know that Niki would not have handled the situation as well if the roles were reversed. If Gabi had responded to her in the way that Niki did. If Niki was the one talking about all the pregnancy stuff, I don't think Niki would have handled it nowhere near as well as Gabi did. So again, it's kind of just this understanding of each other and understanding that at the end of the day, whether they're twins or not, they're both human beings and they both have feelings. They have different ways of showing that. But I'm concerned for them because I just feel like at this stage, I don't know how many people that are good for them are actually in their life right now who are going to help them to progress where they need to go to. I mean, I know they were close friends with Gabi, Hannah, who came in and helped them with their like their mediation. But then again, now Gabi is somebody who I don't feel, a lot of people on YouTube, she's not really shown herself to be the most helpful person in a lot of scenarios, and I kind of feel like maybe she needs to work on helping herself first. And so looking at Gabi, Hannah, and then just thinking about, you know, a lot of these situations around them, also the friend that kind of left the situation, I have my suspicions of who I think it was, to be honest, but I'm not going to say because I don't feel like it's worth having any drama about it. But I do have a suspicion as to who I would think would have said something like that to Gabi. Again, I think the voices around you are so important, and I just feel like for what Gabi and Niki are and who they are, they're such incredible women. They have so much potential, but I feel like they're at this point in their life where if they let in the wrong voices, if they have the wrong friends, if they make, you know, really bad decisions, and I'm not talking about bad decisions like, you know, doing drugs and stuff, although those are bad decisions as well. I'm talking about the bad decisions as in like properly like life defining decisions, i.e. friends they choose to have around them, because the friends even are, your friends are people that can really make or break your life as well. You know, they can really change the trajectory of your life. They can make you take one opportunity or not take another one. So I think it's really important. And if anything, if I were ever to speak to them, the thing I would say to them is to really address the friends that they have. Not to say that their friends are bad, but just that to address the friends that they have, the people around them, the voices around them, who they're listening to. I do think the guys that they have in their life, they seem to be really like good guys for them, and I think they are probably the best for them to listen to. I know, I think both Niki and Gabi believe in God, and I feel like they should actually lean more on God to actually guide them in these kinds of things, because I feel like they're in a very pivotal part of their lives right now, and what they don't need is anybody steering them wrongly, and what they need is somebody steering them rightly. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video because I'm genuinely concerned for them, like in a big way, especially after watching the whole Jersey Shore situation. I feel like they always find themselves in these situations where it's like, it's a positive thing, and it is positive, but there's a lot of negative that goes on. And I feel like the negativity that goes on is nothing to do with Niki and Gabi and their like spouses. It's always kind of to do with influences that they have and just maybe toxic ways that they behave that kind of create these things. And I just don't want that to have like a long-standing effect on them. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say about Niki and Gabi and why I'm concerned for them. And I will actually genuinely be praying for them, like, because it would just be so sad to see these two women who've built such an incredible YouTube page and who are building so many incredible businesses. And I mean, their music is really, really good as well. I would be ashamed to see them not reach their full potential because of people around them. And so yeah, I really think that they could do, first of all, leaning on God, and second of all, just really knowing that not everybody in your life has your best interest at heart. And just because somebody says they have your best interest at heart doesn't mean they do. And even if they do, they don't necessarily know what that thing is. And so yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will speak to you next time.